A bull condemned to slaughter saves the farmer's grandson from a deadly attack by a hungry eagle, and that changes his life forever. Before the story begins, comment below which city you're watching this video from. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Enjoy the story, everyone. The golden sun cast long shadows across the rolling hills of the Richardson Ranch near Big Timber, Montana. Clint Richardson stood at the fence line, his weathered face set in the same hard lines that had defined him for decades. His gaze fixed on the black bull standing apart from the rest of the herd. Midnight, they called him, a fitting name for an animal whose coat absorbed light like a shadow given form. "That bull's trouble," Clint muttered to Frank, his foreman of 15 years. "Always watching, never mixes with the others." Frank adjusted his worn Stetson. "Never caused any problems, though." "Don't need to cause problems to be trouble," Clint replied, his voice as rough as the Montana terrain surrounding them. 7 years I've watched him watching us. There's something in those eyes I don't trust." The Richardson Ranch sprawled across 3,000 acres of prime Montana grazing land. Clint had built it from nearly nothing after his father left him just 100 acres and a mountain of debt. Now it was one of the most respected cattle operations in the county, known for quality beef and no-nonsense business practices. Clint ran it with military precision, keeping emotional attachments at arm's length, whether with animals or people. "Got the transport arranged for tomorrow," Frank said, checking his clipboard. "We're sending 8 head to slaughter, including Midnight." Clint nodded with finality. About time, never liked that bull's presence, like he's judging everything around him. Back at the main house, Clint reviewed the ranch's accounts at his desk by the window. The late afternoon light painted the room amber, catching the dust motes floating in the still air. The house felt too big these days, had been too empty since Martha passed 5 years ago. Their daughter Emily had left 10 years before that, after a fight that had grown from heated words to a chasm neither knew how to cross. The phone's sharp ring cut through the silence. "Richardson," he answered gruffly. "Dad, it's me." Emily's voice sounded different, tentative but determined. Clint's grip tightened on the receiver. "Emily, everything all right? I'm coming to the ranch tomorrow. I need to see you." His heart quickened despite himself. "Any particular reason?" A pause stretched between them, filled with unspoken words and missed years. "I have someone I want you to meet," she finally said. "My son, Brandon. He's 10 months old." The words hit Clint like a physical blow. A grandson. He hadn't even known Emily was pregnant. "You have a child," he said flatly, masking the storm of emotions behind his practiced stoicism. "Yes. And it's time you met him." After they hung up, Clint stood at the window watching Midnight in the distance. The bull stood motionless on a small rise, facing the house as if he could see through walls. Even from here, Clint could feel those dark eyes watching, waiting. Tomorrow the animal would be gone, and his daughter would return with a grandchild he'd never known existed. Change was coming to the Richardson Ranch, whether he was ready for it or not. The ranch hands were busy loading cattle into the transport truck when a blue sedan turned onto the long gravel driveway. Clint stood on the porch, his face unreadable as the car approached. Dust billowed behind the vehicle, golden in the morning light. Emily stepped out first. At 32, she looked more like her mother than ever. The same auburn hair, now cut short, the same determined set to her chin. But her eyes were all Richardson, sharp and assessing. She wore jeans and a simple blouse, city clothes that looked out of place against the ranch backdrop. "Hello, Dad," she said, no smile softening her features. Clint nodded stiffly. "Emily." She moved to the back door and retrieved a baby from a car seat. The child wore blue overalls and had a tuft of dark hair that caught the breeze. "This is Brandon," she said, approaching the porch. Clint Richardson had faced down bank foreclosures, blizzards that threatened his entire herd, and the slow goodbye of his wife's illness. None had made his heart pound like the sight of this small boy with curious eyes. "Can I?" he started, then stopped, unsure what he was asking permission for. Emily's expression softened slightly. "Would you like to hold him?" Inside the house, with the baby settled awkwardly in his arms, Clint felt decades of practiced stoicism threatening to crack. Brandon reached up with a tiny hand and grabbed his grandfather's calloused finger with surprising strength. "He looks like you did," Clint said quietly. Same determined expression. Emily sat across from him at the kitchen table. "I didn't come just to introduce you. I need to stay here for a while. 3 weeks, maybe a month. Clint raised an eyebrow. Trouble? Not the kind you're thinking. My apartment building is being renovated, asbestos removal. We can't stay there, and hotels are expensive for that long. She met his eyes directly. I know we have our differences, but Brandon should know his grandfather. Before Clint could respond, Frank burst through the door, forgetting to knock in his urgency. Boss, we got a situation. That black bull, Midnight, he's gone berserk. Broke through the holding pen when we tried to load him. Clint handed Brandon back to Emily. Stay here, he ordered, hurrying outside. The scene at the cattle pens was chaos. 2 fence sections lay splintered on the ground. Ranch hands were attempting to corral Midnight, who stood with head lowered, pawing at the dirt. Unlike the blind rage Clint had expected, the bull seemed focused, deliberate in his defiance. He just exploded when we tried to move him toward the truck, Frank explained. Never seen anything like it. Get the tranquilizer gun, Clint instructed. We'll have to sedate him to load him. As Frank jogged toward the barn, Clint noticed Emily had followed him outside, Brandon on her hip. The baby was delighted by the activity, clapping his tiny hands. I thought I told you to stay inside, Clint snapped. You don't get to order me around anymore, Emily replied. Brandon's enjoying the fresh air. The tension between father and daughter hung heavy in the air, years of unresolved conflict compressed into taut silence. Neither noticed when Brandon, fascinated by something glinting in the grass, wriggled in his mother's arms. Emily set him down for just a moment to adjust her grip. That moment was all it took. Brandon crawled with surprising speed toward a shiny object nestled in the grass. Emily turned just as he disappeared around the corner of the barn. "Brandon!" she called, panic rising in her voice as she rushed after him. Clint was already moving, his body remembering a speed he hadn't called upon in years. The commotion with Midnight forgotten, he followed his daughter around the barn's edge. Brandon sat in the open field, captivated by a piece of quartz catching the sunlight. Above him a shadow moved, a golden eagle, one of the largest Clint had ever seen, circling lower with each pass, its talons extended toward the oblivious child. "No!" Emily screamed, still too far away to reach her son. Clint's heart nearly stopped. They wouldn't make it in time. Then came the thunder of hooves, powerful, determined, unstoppable. Midnight charged across the field, his massive body a black blur against the Montana sky. The ranch hands watched in stunned silence as the bull they'd been fighting to contain raced toward the baby. "God, no," Clint whispered, certain he was about to witness a double tragedy. But Midnight didn't charge Brandon. Instead, the bull positioned himself between the descending eagle and the child, just as the predator swooped down. With a precise movement that seemed impossible for a creature so large, Midnight swung his head upward, catching the eagle with his horns and sending it tumbling through the air with an outraged screech. The eagle recovered mid-air and retreated, recognizing the battle was lost. Midnight stood over Brandon, his breathing heavy but his movements gentle. The baby, unaware of the danger that had threatened him, reached up toward the bull's nose with a delighted giggle. Emily reached them first, scooping Brandon into her arms and backing away from the animal. Clint arrived seconds later, positioning himself between his family and the bull. But Midnight made no threatening moves. Instead, he regarded them with those same watchful eyes that had unsettled Clint for years, eyes that now seemed less sinister and more protective. "He saved him," Emily whispered. "The bull saved my baby." Midnight turned away from them and walked slowly back toward his broken pen, his mission apparently completed. The ranch hands stood aside, giving him a wide berth as he passed. Frank approached, tranquilizer gun in hand. "Still want to load him up, boss?" Clint stared after the retreating bull, his worldview shifting beneath him like Montana soil in a tremor. "No," he said finally. "Cancel the transport for Midnight." That evening, after Brandon had been put to bed in Emily's old room, father and daughter sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. A cool breeze carried the scent of sage and pine from the surrounding hills. "I've been watching that bull for 7 years, Clint said, breaking the silence. "Never understood him. Kept to himself, always watching everything. It made me uncomfortable." Emily glanced at her father. Maybe he was just waiting. Waiting for what? For the moment when he was needed. She paused. "Not everything that's quiet is threatening, Dad. Sometimes the quietest ones are the most observant, the most ready to act when it matters. The parallel wasn't lost on Clint. His relationship with his daughter had broken under the weight of his rigid expectations and her fierce independence. Both too stubborn to bend, too proud to reach out across the divide that had grown between them. "He can stay here as long as he wants," Clint said, nodding toward the distant field where Midnight grazed alone. "I owe him that much." Emily studied her father's profile in the fading light. "You've changed." "Not enough, not soon enough." Clint's hands gripped the arms of his chair. "I was wrong about a lot of things. That bull, and you." The words hung between them, fragile as morning mist over the valley. "I should have supported your decision to leave," he continued. "To build your own life. Your mother always said I was trying to hold on too tight." "Mom understood," Emily said softly. "She knew I needed to find my own way. She was wiser than me in most things." Clint glanced toward the house. "Does Brandon's father know about him?" Emily tensed slightly. "David isn't in the picture. He decided fatherhood wasn't for him before Brandon was born." Clint felt a surge of anger toward this unknown man, followed by a deeper realization. He had nearly done the same thing, letting pride keep him from knowing his grandson. "His loss," Clint said finally. "The boy's special." 3 weeks stretched into 2 months. The renovation of Emily's apartment building faced delays, but neither father nor daughter mentioned it. The Richardson Ranch adopted a new rhythm, one punctuated by a baby's laughter and renewed purpose. Brandon grew steadily, taking his first steps on the wraparound porch where generations of Richardsons had watched Montana seasons change. Emily found herself relaxing into ranch life in a way she never had as a teenager, desperate to escape. Most surprising was the relationship developing between Brandon and Midnight. The bull, once permitted to roam freely within the ranch boundaries, often appeared near the house when the toddler played in the yard. Emily watched nervously at first, but soon recognized the gentle awareness the massive animal displayed around her son. "Big Moo!" became Brandon's excited cry whenever he spotted his unlikely guardian. One autumn afternoon, Clint sat with his grandson on his lap, watching Midnight graze nearby. "You know, I almost made a terrible mistake," he told the boy who was too young to understand. "I almost sent away someone who turned out to be family." "Family," Brandon repeated happily, one of his new words. Emily approached from the house, holding a letter. "It's official. I've been offered the veterinary position at the Big Timber Clinic." Clint looked up, surprised. "You're staying in Montana? If that's okay." Emily sat beside them. "Brandon loves it here. And the ranch needs a vet on call, doesn't it?" "The ranch needs family," Clint said, his voice rough with emotion. "That's what it's always needed." Winter came early that year, blanketing the ranch in pristine white. Emily converted the old study into a veterinary office for emergency calls. Clint taught Brandon to feed the horses, the little boy perched securely in his grandfather's strong arms. And Midnight continued his solitary patrol of the property, his dark shape a comforting presence against the snow. No longer a threat, but a protector, the silent guardian who had shown them all that sometimes the greatest strength lies in waiting for the right moment to act, in watching over those who matter most. On Christmas Eve, as snowflakes danced in the golden light spilling from the ranch house windows, the Richardson family gathered inside. Where once there had been emptiness and unspoken regrets, now there was the warmth of second chances and the promise of new beginnings. Thank you for staying with us until the end. We hope Clint and Emily's journey of reconciliation touched your heart. If you enjoyed the story of how one silent guardian changed an entire family, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave a like on this video. It helps us tremendously. Every day we bring you new heartwarming stories about life's unexpected turns, so feel free to explore and find your favorite. And of course, we want to hear your thoughts. What did you think about Midnight's protective instinct? Would you have judged him the same way Clint did? Share your opinions in the comments. See you tomorrow with another incredible story.